Welcome back, everyone. Our next guest is a truly hard-working freedom fighter in this movement. We were fortunate enough to grab him for a few minutes in between his meetings and his luncheon in the Capitol today. So I'm very thankful to squeeze us in. Lord Wooldridge is a member of Sing Prohibition, probably as the Misty from New York. Remember that was about 6-7 years ago, and he is also a co-founder of LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. And if you've been keeping up with Howard, you'll know that he is now the principal voice of law enforcement to our congressional officials. And he is in there full time, educating them about the devastating impact that the continued war on drugs is having on our country, and most particularly on our youth. And I was on Howard's website today, and that is citizensopposingprohibition.org. And there was an article there. I think it was Mary Ann Aiken from the Washington Post. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on her name. But she kind of summed it up. And what Howard's job is, if you can imagine this, is educating and convincing 535 of the most uptight people to do away with drug prohibition. That's quite a big undertaking. And I have to say, if there's anybody who can do it, it's Howard. He's awesome. If you've ever heard him speak, he's incredibly earnest in his conviction and in his delivery. And the material, you can't argue with that because it's all truths. So, I highly encourage you to go to the website. It's a very handsome website, I do have to say. It's very nice, very well laid out. And there are some articles that Howard has written. He's actually a very good writer. I shouldn't say that like that. He is a great writer. I'm not surprised that he's a great writer. As a matter of fact, I am surprised that his horse is such a good writer. She's probably one of the only horses that have their very own memoirs. And that is Misty's Long Ride. So if you get a chance, check that out. That's a lot of fun. But I'm going to go ahead and bring Howard on and give him a chance to speak, because I know he's a busy guy, and I want him to be able to talk to us as much as possible today.
Howard, are you with us?
I am.
Great. Thank you. I would like to thank you so much for being here today. On behalf of myself and our listeners, it's such a joy to have you. So I'd like to extend that thank you to you first off.
Well, I thank you for the opportunity to address your audience on this very important topic.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. It is an important topic. Now, most of our listeners, I would think, have watched the LEAP videos and are familiar with you, and some of them might know you as the cowboy cop, and perhaps some from your earlier years in law enforcement as Highway Howie. Can you give us a little background on yourself for those who aren't familiar with your work and your career, and perhaps lead us up to where you are now, how you got involved in this movement?
Sure. Well, let me just start by saying that it's been my experience as a street cop that the war on drugs, this modern drug prohibition, has been the most destructive, dysfunctional, and immoral policy since slavery and Jim Crow. And that is the reason I'm here today, speaking out in the United States Congress against the policy. I graduated from Michigan State and then went on to an 18-year career in law enforcement, the last 3 years of which were as a detective, so I've arrested some bad people. And then after riding Misty Across America on a kind of a Paul Revere ride in 2005, I came to the United States Congress to be the voice of law enforcement in opposition to this terribly destructive and dysfunctional policy.
Right. And you are actually one of the co-founders of LEAP, am I correct?
Yeah, there was 5 of us got together in 2002 with a big boost from MPP, Marijuana Policy Project, to get us started financially. And today, LEAP is the premier organization representing law enforcement and others, of course, in their opposition to all drug prohibition.
Right. Yeah, you guys have done a great job. I think that the fact that you are out there really sharing your experience, your firsthand experience on the damage that you've seen the drug war cause is very important. It's it's very credible, and I thank you for your courage, and for all the members of LEAP for their courage for really standing firm on this, because I understand that it can be problematic for them in their careers.
Well, certainly we found with at least 3 cases that I know of, active duty officers have been fired for saying that at least marijuana prohibition or all drug prohibition is a bad idea. It is very dangerous to exercise your First Amendment rights as an active duty police officer in opposition to drug prohibition. And some of our members are actually slightly concerned, or even more, that the Mexican drug cartels, if they're smart, would actually start to shoot LEAP speakers, because we are becoming the lead organization in saying that the Mexican drug cartels can be taken out with a stroke of a pen, like we did in 1933 by repealing drug prohibition.
Right. So I guess, yeah, the threats run deeper than just job security. That's kind of scary. Yeah, that adds to the valiant effort that you guys are making all the more. So tell us, what is your passion? What is your focus on the war on drugs, and what do you find is the most damaging side effect? There are so many, but what did you go to bat for?
Well, yeah, you're right. Between funding Al Qaeda and the Taliban, causing the huge explosion in gangs across the country, the racist elements of this thing are horrific and well known. The financial costs, etc. But what boils down for me is the children and young people. I know from both my professional experience in arresting pedophiles, and then being here in the Congress for 6 years, going to hearings and talking to active duty detectives, that we are horribly not taking care of the pedophiles who are in the chat rooms as we speak right now, trying to make contact with your 13 or 14-year-old boy or girl. Instead, of course, we're flying around in helicopters looking for a green plant, or we're trying to bust a Charlie Sheen or a Rush Limbaugh. And this all distracts from our purpose of chasing true bad guys. And on the flip side of that, of course, the federal government reports, these are federal stats, that approximately 900,000 teens are employed today as drug dealers. This is immoral.
Wow.
This is wrong. The policy generates a job option which these teenagers have taken, and of course every day across America somewhere 2 or 3 are shot, and every week 2 or 3 are shot dead. It's amazingly immoral from my standpoint that the nation has a policy which allows teenagers to be shot every day. So I want to get teenagers back to doing something, flipping burgers, making chump change, and they should not have that option to sell drugs. So that, and we can arrest a lot more people hurting our kids if we're not flying around in a helicopter.
Yeah, absolutely. And to add to the disadvantage that we're putting our children in with drug prohibition, we are not able to house our pedophiles in prison because we are too busy locking up marijuana users or drug users that may be of a nonviolent nature.
Right.
So
May I also add that in another way that this hurts our young people is that as your audience could say very quickly, whether they're a parent or a college student, the cost of a university degree, a college degree, has gone up dramatically in the last 20 years because we've built 1.5 million prison beds, and that money came almost always right out of the education department and education budget of a Tallahassee or a Lansing, Michigan. And so students and their parents must be paying huge amounts of money to get a degree. So the average college graduate today is graduating with a $28,000 debt just coming out of college. It's horrific, and it's getting much worse.
Yeah, and I do think that people are taking a look at this. I just don't think that they're taking a close enough look at it. I don't think that they're taking a very well-rounded look at it is what it boils down to. Some people are very aware of the financial burden of the war on drugs. Some people are aware of, how it might eliminate some of the violence with the drug cartel, but very few people are aware of all of the benefits to ending prohibition, right down to the medical benefits of marijuana. So it's, yeah.
That's very true. And most people are concerned with making their mortgage and trying to get their kids off to school and how they're going to afford tuition or, put food on the table for that matter. 43 million Americans are on food stamps. So when you're up to your hips and alligators, it's harder to think about, things like drug policy and how it affects those macro issues. But certainly, for those of us who work here in Washington, D.C. and the United States Congress, we are very familiar with the billions and billions wasted every year as my profession tries to fix stupid. And one of the things that certainly I've made about 2,000 presentations to staffers here in the last almost 6 years, and we all agree, Republican or Democrat, that the government cannot fix stupid. But yet here we are still out there trying to catch the Rush Limbaugh or the Charlie Sheen or the Willie Nelson, while truly bad guys like pedophiles are all over the internet chat rooms. This is wrong on so many levels.